Namaste and welcome to a new episode of the Bharat Varta podcast. Today we have with us Advocate Loknath Chatterjee, a young face from West Bengal who is contesting the Baliganj Assembly seat on the Bharatiya Janata Party ticket in the ongoing assembly elections. I am Ashish Chandorkar, your host for the day. Loknath ji, thank you so much for talking to Bharat Varta amidst your busy schedule of the elections.
Pleasure.
Right. So, Loknath ji has studied at prestigious institutions such as Don Bosco, Park Circus, and NUJS, and he's very much a true blue Kolkata resident. He has been active in politics for several years and was given a chance to contest from a seat in the very heart of Kolkata, which is part of the Kolkata South Lok Sabha constituency. So, in this discussion, we will know from him the various aspects of the Bengal elections, what has his experience been in terms of the campaigning, and his own work in the last few years, which led to him getting the ticket. Thank you, Loknath ji. You want to start with any opening remarks from your side?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be there upon your podcast, and it's really great that we'll be reaching out to a pan-Indian audience. So also, they get a view of how things are, what politics is in Bengal, and what it means to be there in the busy humdrum of politics in Bengal and in Calcutta. So it's a horrible state of affairs here.
Right. Sure. So without much ado, let's deep dive into some of those aspects, Loknath ji. So what are the key issues on which this West Bengal state election is being fought?
It's a lot of things joined in together. The issues range from corruption in politics in Bengal. The issues range from the precedence of given to a family here in Bengal, the absolute incompetence, misgovernance, malgovernance, violence, appeasement politics, and it's a whole host of factors together, so which have led to a massive anti-incumbency factor looming in Bengal. So, and also politics of opportunism, politics of going against the central government at the drop of a hat, playing politics on the slightest of pretext, and this doing opposition politics even while being in power. A lot of things together. In fact, even issues related to appeasement, but which may go on a bit further also in that regard. So a lot of things together have really added to the bowl here in Bengal.
Right. The specter of COVID-19 has overshadowed the election, especially the fifth phase onwards, right? What is the impact of the pandemic on the election? What do you see on the ground here?
See, we've been directly affected in the sense that our campaign timings were affected. Our campaign timings had to be cut short. Suddenly one fine day, I was personally very disheartened when Shri Amit Shah ji was supposed to, address a program. And on that day, the 16th of April, you had a circular coming in from the Election Commission saying that from 7 p.m. onwards today, no public meetings, rallies, and such and such. And Amit Shah ji was supposed to come at 7 p.m. on that day. So yes, it was very heartbreaking for me on that occasion. And that apart, there have been certain decisions. There's been a decision of the Calcutta High Court which says that one will have to maintain precautions and all of it. So in our sabhas and street corners and meetings we were distributing, we had distributed masks prior to it. We were asking people to maintain distancing and all of it. So yes, it created a bit of an issue because we being a national party had to be much more responsible than Trinamool Congress, which was which did not even care two hoots about COVID protocol. And so yes, a lot of more responsibility came upon us. And yes, even while campaigning, we had to be very careful. And in fact, while we were doing door-to-door campaigning, there were occasions when, yes, residents would say, no, we are not allowing people to come into our apartment complexes because of, COVID restrictions and all. So my greatest worry is that these people should go out to vote, and I'm sure they will.
Right. In fact, I had two follow-on questions, and you kind of touched upon them. The first is that the turnout itself has not been too bad, right? We have had 80% plus turnout
All
since,
this while.
yeah, all this while. So one is like, what do you expect for phase 6, 7, 8? That is one question.
Phase 6 is over.
Phase 6 is over, 7 and 8. Sorry, phase 6 is
Yeah.
already 80% plus, 7 and 8. And the second question was: are the other parties also following the protocols which you mentioned, or is it like the singular focus has come on the BJP?
See, I'll tell you, because BJP, a lot of top leaders have trooped into the state. It's a national party. It's the party in focus. It's the party which is challenging the incumbent government. And also, responsibility got fixed on us a bit more. That's what, I've found out. And then, of course, there's this great international media and great, this lobby working against the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is also, they just try and pick up random issues like that. So this is again, in fact, from the party high command, we've been told, no big rallies and all of it. So yes, we had to be careful. And of course, our campaigning didn't go as per plans, because we had made plans of, having these public sabhas after 7 p.m. Until then, we were planning to do, Jan Sampark, which is door-to-door campaigning and all of it. So that got affected a lot. And, and every time we had to be careful that we are not crossing 7 p.m. As far as your question on turnout is concerned, I'm sure people in Bengal are yearning for a change. And the elections are moving into Calcutta and, in the penultimate phase, and then they'll move into other portions in the last phase. But what I believe is, since people are yearning for a change, they will want to come out and vote. The only fear is, there'll be a lot of criminal activities. There'll be a lot of forced stoppage of people going to the booths. That's a concern of mine. The ruling Trinamool Congress, which the left had aced, the Trinamool Congress practices that, where they prevent people from going out to vote. So this is something which we are concerned with, and for which we are trying to take active steps.
Right. But you don't think that the curtailing of the rallies of PM Modi and senior leaders like Mr. Amit Shah, that will not have any impact on the BJP prospects?
BJP, there's a great groundswell of support, and people have already connected. In fact, even during my campaigning, I found out that most people could connect with Modi ji. In fact, people living in the, every nook and cranny of the deepest of bastis and could slums could connect with Modi ji. So that's a great connect, which a single rally here and there will not affect in any manner. And then also with the opposition politics strike, which the Trinamool Congress played, that again created a lot of sympathy in the minds of people for the BJP. And then, of course, corruption and appeasement politics played a major role. I think it's playing a major role. So therefore, people are already connected with the top BJP leadership. So a few rallies here and there not happening would not affect the prospects.
Right. So, see, BJP has had a very meteoric rise in the state since 2014, right? There was started with couple of Lok Sabha seats. Then, of course, the assembly in 2016 was not very good, but then 2019 Lok Sabha was again a huge success, 18 seats there. How do you describe that process? What exactly happened in Bengal where the party suddenly came in focus in 5-6 years?
See, I'll tell you, party grows suddenly because a lot of groundwork happens, a lot of spade work happens over time. So it's, decades of hard work by the party people, by the ecosystem. So, a lot of decades of hard work started yielding results in the last few years, which we saw. These were visible results. So a lot of, work went in, which in public eye is invisible. A lot of seva work happened. A lot of, party structure changed. Party, was brought in leaders. Party brought in a lot of focus and all of it. So all of these factors, and then of course people gave Mamata Banerjee a second term, primarily because at that point of time the BJP did not have such a great organization to support a government. or, in fact, lay a claim to the government. So that was one reason. But apart from that, Mamta's people saw the kind of misgovernance, people saw the kind of appeasement politics being played by, and then populism has its limits. You can't please all. So this populist politics, and in Bengal, the trend is they generally give you, uh, a chance. So she got a second chance, and then after that, it's also due to her messing up and, you know, in public calling prime minister names, you know, abusing. And so this is something which the people in Bengal didn't like. And also you have this, left Islamic nexus, which grew suddenly into a big, powerful typhoon. So there, people saw that BJP is also the savior against this, left Islamic nexus. So that is one. In fact, even if you look at the left front today, it's the left, the Congress, and the Indian Secular Front, which is, you know, Abbas Siddiqui, who's religious leader of the Muslims, who said at one point of time, made very communal statements like, if need be, we will 50 crore Hindus should die due to COVID and all of it. So this entire communal thing which was being played out by the Congress and the communists, that also started taking shape a lot. Mamta's appeasement politics started taking shape. So all of these plans, programs, and then of course people saw that there's a communal reservation which was introduced by the left in the name of OBCA reservation, whereby only Muslims were given reservation. Muslims, castes which were there amongst the Muslims were given reservations. So a lot of factors started, decisions took shape, and then you had 15, 16 onwards, people started noticing the observable results of it. Then you had Mamta, clamping down on Durga Puja Visarjan, and Ram Navami processions she started stopping. So there was a direct attack on the faith and belief of Hindus. So in Bengal, Hindus did not openly profess their faith in such a manner which is there in many parts of the country. But moment there was a direct attack, and then of course, Hindu pogroms kept on happening all across. From 2011 onwards, you had the Deganga, which were called as riots. But then people started noticing that there's a definite Islamo leftist nexus, which was being supported by Mamta Banerjee. And then you have the Hindus really not liking it. And then at the same point of time, you have the central government, which is coming out with a lot of good schemes. People started noticing the effects of the central government's policies, plans in the last few years, decisions from 2014 onwards, they were giving fruits. So, all of these things, the negative image, negative policies of the West Bengal government, the Islamo-leftist nexus, and then the good work done by the center. So a lot of factors came together and helped in the rise of the BJP. A lot of people from the Trinamool Congress also noticed that, Trinamool Congress was becoming just another family-led party with the induction of Mamta's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee. And Abhishek Banerjee started calling the shots. He had a lot of, he wanted money from every source. So there was a lot of, corruption and a lot of other factors together with, and Mamta promoting only her nephew. And these influenced the political scenario in Bengal.
Right. So let us also talk about your journey through some of these years, right? Like the cases around the Ram Navami Yatras and also the Durga Puja pandals and Visarjan issues, etc., some of which you had come across in your professional capacity, actually. So what has been that journey, and what was your involvement in some of those issues?
Uh, you know, it's been a long one. Again, a lot of bad policies, decisions on the part of the government here. This affected things entirely. So the most notable one was the Durga Puja Visarjan matter. In the Durga Puja Visarjan matter, you had the Mamta government putting out an unwritten fatwa saying that no Durga Puja Visarjan is allowed to happen on the day of Dashmi, which is the Dasera day, which is the day when traditional immersions happen of the deity, and which is after 4 p.m. You can't do any immersion. So that was and because of Moharram. And Moharram was not on that day. Moharram was on the next day. This was in 2016. And so then, a lot of people were forced not to protest against it. But a Datta family, of in North Calcutta, they approached me. Then they said, "Sir, we need to. This is something I don't like." So there were two brothers. One brother was into business. There was another brother who was a bachelor. And so the brother who was into business was scared. He was scared that, Trinamool government, Trinamool people will spoil his business and all. And the brother who was a bachelor was, more so brave. So what he did was that he came. Then 4 p.m. there was no written order. So people started saying there's no written notice. What is it to be done? So then we said, then I said, don't worry, let's try and do something. So we pull out the almanac, which we call Panjika in Bengali. So we pull out a history of, I asked him, what's the custom in which, how do you do the immersion? They said that in the evening. I said, why? So, they were thinking. Then suddenly it came out that, after Suryast, which is after sunset, they do Devi Varan. So they see off the deity. So, the deity is considered as a mother and at times as a daughter of the family. So they said we do Devi Varan and then we see off the deity. So I said, when does that happen? That happens after sunset. In that year, if I remember correctly, sunset was sometime around, after 5 p.m. And this unwritten fatwa was saying 4 p.m. So what we did was that we wrote a letter to the police station saying that, like every year, we will want to do Visarjan, which is the immersion of the deity, after sunset, after Devi Varan. So from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., you allow us to do. Obviously, the police station didn't respond. So that we used as a cause of action, and we approached the High Court. And then, it was history created. Everyone, it's there on everyone's lips. But I know how that process took shape, how it took shape, how very few people were there in the beginning. So that's how I believe history is made. So, these people, then we approach the court, and then you have the historic order judgment of Justice Dipankar Datta. Then the government started creating pressure. So then these two brothers came to me and said, "Sir, we want to withdraw the case." I said, "Why?" They said, "No, there's a lot of pressure from the Trinamool Congress." I said, "Let's see, you are on the way to win the matter, but it's your decision. If you want to withdraw. Then with, as God would have it, Amrit Lal Dhar, who's a practicing advocate of the High Court here, at his house also, you have Durga deity being worshipped in the, Shiva Chandi form. So it's the same thing with him. Then we filed a second writ petition. And in the second writ petition, moment it was heard, then these two brothers on the day of hearing said, "Sir, come what may, we are not going to withdraw our matter." Then, then the judge made scathing observations on the conduct and role of the government. And then after that, you had the judge set it aside, saying that you can't have unwritten orders like this. You will have to. And when it was said, where was it announced? It was said that it was announced on media. So, and the judge was surprised, saying that how come the government runs through the media? You will have to issue notifications, circulars. That's how the government runs. So the judge said that, there's no obstruction, it will happen. Then the government appealed. And on the day of Navami of Durga Puja, in the morning, we had to go before the division bench. And before the division bench also, the division bench dismissed the appeal of the government. Justice Nishida Matre was there. She's from Mumbai, from Maharashtra. So she said that, in fact, it was a division bench of Justice Tapobrata Chakraborty also, along with Justice Nishida Matre. The bench said that, if in Bombay, you can have the Ganpati, Mother Mary, and then, a Muslim festival happening together, what prevents the Calcutta police from doing it? So in fact, the government didn't set aside the judgment, rejected the appeal, and in fact, did not stay the operation of the judgment of the single bench. So the government had to follow suit. In fact, next year they again tried to implement it. Then again the government set it aside. The court set it aside. So this was there. Then next, they tried to stop Ram Navami from being organized. It was in South Damdam municipality. So there again, we had to approach the court, and the court, and it was every year they would, grant permissions and all, because Ram Navami was being held in a, low key form. But then suddenly they started refusing permissions for Ram Navami observe, processions and all. And then you had the court setting it aside, and then again you see having history being created. So Ram Navami processions were never being stopped again in Bengal. Then they started stopping the Sangha schools from operating. The Sharada Shishu Tirtha, the Saraswati Vidya, Tirthas, and then you have. So this was there in North Bengal. They've got a brilliant, and in fact, a lot of top people, they really want their wards to get admitted to these Sangha schools, Sarada Shishu Tirthas. Then then the government said that no, all these schools will be closed down. And then, they never even thought of the future of these students, what would happen to them, thousands of students. And these are, schools with brilliant culture. They would, I visited some of them, and then, the way they would nicely greet, the way the students were, it's beautiful. And, from these poor backgrounds, they had, in fact, school buses operating, and almost they would not hardly pay they don't receive any state support. So with, then again, we had a very long battle before the High Court here. And ultimately, that decision was also set aside, and the schools are operating and giving quality and good education to all. So then you had, a lot of programs and, Sangha events, they were refusing to allow those, we had to approach the court. Then, interestingly, you had a chemical hub, which was being sought to be created on Nayachar Island. Nayachar Island, as the name suggests, Nayachar, which means new silt. So it's a very new island, hardly 2-3 decades back it was formed in that sense. So they wanted to create a chemical project there, chemical hub there. So a lot of fishermen are there on that island. So fishermen we approached the Eastern Green Tribe, the National Green Tribunal and Eastern Zonal Bench. Then that decision was also set aside, and it was given back to the fishermen. There were a lot of ecological reasons. There were a lot of other reasons also. And, this chemical effluents and all would have affected the seawater there in the Gangetic Delta, which is a very fragile ecosystem. You have, wonderful fish, shrimps and all being there. So it would have an overall effect. And then also, it wouldn't have really helped in any manner in any place, considering the nature of the island and, the new island which it is. So that was, one. Then you have the Waqf Board refusing to work as per the Right to Information Act 2005, the government law. Then the Waqf, we approached the court regarding this, and then of course the court directed the Waqf Board of West Bengal to the Board of Waqfs of West Bengal to act as per the Right to Information Act. Then you had, a doctor being picked up and harassed because he had protested against PPE kits not being made available to doctors during the pandemic. So instead of PPE kits, the government of West Bengal was providing them raincoats. So there, Dr. Indranil Khan, who's a candidate who was contesting the Kasba Assembly constituency, his election got concluded on the 10th. So there, he was picked up. Then, his mobile phone was taken away randomly. So then we could, we approached the court, and then the court gave us relief. In fact, the government of West Bengal started directing random lockdowns, which is against the central government guidelines. So 2 days lockdown was announced before the NEET, which is the entrance examination for medical aspirants in September. So a student was saying that how will I travel, because there was only one center in North Bengal, and that is Siliguri. So they had to travel hundreds of kilometers to reach that center. So, and if lockdown was announced, if lockdown was implemented, how would the students travel? There would be no vehicles to fly. Where will they stay and all of it? So we approached the court, and then the court granted relief, saying that no, they will have to be given transport and they will have to be given lodging. So, and then after that, no lockdown was announced statewide ever by the government of West Bengal. Then, recently, in October, Anup Kumar Roy, was killed in custody He was a young guy, hardly in his 20s, early 20s, who was a good sports person. But then he was picked up by the police saying that he's a BJP guy. And then he was beaten to death inside the lockup there. And then, they did a first postmortem in the evening, which is not allowed. Then they did a second postmortem, which again was inconclusive. The court directed a third postmortem, which they still did not do. So, this and a lot of others, again, it will take a lot of time. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. In the middle, I was with the, Yuva Morcha, Prabhari for Sikkim and all of it. So that's like another issue.
Sounds like a very difficult journey, though. I mean, some of these issues were also in national prominence in news, especially in 2016, 17. So, Loknathji, there's one typical prevalent thought that the intellectual community in Bengal doesn't support the BJP. Why has that perception built, and is that true in the first place?
It's no more that situation there. It is perhaps incorrect to say that. There was a lot of left-leaning intelligentsia in Bengal. So, and then that intelligentsia became corrupt, became selfish, and then they stopped taking up issues of the people. So, and then, randomly people in primetime news channels were declared as intellectuals, so which in Bengali is called Buddhijibis. So, which literally translating would mean who earn due to their buddhi. So, but again, the intelligentsia in Bengal has started supporting the BJP now. And yes, there was a definite tilt towards the left, which was, but now, things have changed substantially. In fact, even there was a, definite deep-seated left thought process, which even Mamta did not change and in fact supported it for whatever political reasons, God knows. But Mamta in fact supported it. So, these, but now things have started changing. In fact, in rural Bengal, people have started talking about, as to why the BJP is important, as to why nationalism is important. So in fact, there were times when I would go to the Jadavpur University, some people, not all, would talk of, boycotting classes because Israel was there attacking Palestine. So now, they've, I believe they've stopped doing this. But, things have started changing in Bengal and there's a definite shift.
Right. So, like, you yourself come from the heart of Kolkata and from a very prestigious law school. Is selection of candidates like you are signaling for this intelligentsia in the city? Would you say that?
I would definitely want to believe so. They don't give you definite reasons for that, but it's a host of factors, and BJP being a national party with an organization of this nature, it's a very layered thing. It's a lot of inputs from various angles. But of course, prior organizational experience has helped me also in dealing with elections. But if you ask me, politics is perhaps the toughest profession. So it involves dealing with people and a lot of things, the state, people, and you're always under the scanner. So, yeah, definitely let's see, as to what was the reason and all. But yes, coming from a traditional Bengali family, and then, I don't know to what extent Don Bosco, Park Circus schooling may have influenced NUJs and all of it. So, yeah, it's all of it together. But then again, politics, as you know, is the art of the possible.
Right. So, in the Lok Sabha elections, while the BJP won several seats in the state, but in the Kolkata region, the performance was not fully there compared to other parts, right? So, like they couldn't win the city seats. Do you think this time the city performance will change and improve?
Yeah, definitely. Across in the city, things will change this time, definitely. And in fact, while I was campaigning, doing my Jansampark, I was really feeling the pulse of the people. And in fact, I'd met people directly. So this was one of the most important facets of my campaigning. So where I would, go door to door, campaigning to whatever extent, I had, it was possible for me to, you know, campaign. And I found that, there's a definite trend in the city in favor of the BJP.
Right. And what about your own seat in Baliganj? I mean, that's been won by TMC 2 times. And even in the Lok Sabha, the TMC had a fairly recent big lead. I mean, BJP had 27% vote share, TMC had 60% vote in the assembly segment. So how do you perceive that seat also?
In my seat personally, I've visited places, I've seen people, I've, interacted with them, and I found that, there's definitely, one candidate of the Trinamool Congress is 75 years old officially. Then there's the left. The left has played definite communal politics here, tying up with Abbas Siddiqui. And all of it together, people are definitely, towards us. People are, support. I've received great support from people. And in fact, unfortunately, the Trinamool has played a lot of criminal politics. They've attacked me 7-8 times. They've really, it's been messy, bad politics which they've tried to play. They've used goons. They, in fact, for 3 days, the street lights outside my house, 5-6 street lights were shut. Every day I keep receiving threats, aapko dekh lenge, and all of it. And then physically attacks have happened. So all of it together. But, it means that, they are definitely scared of BJP doing well in this election. So I definitely have a good belief that we'll do well this time.
Right. So, Loknathji, one last question to you on what is your vision for Kolkata should the BJP win, and also more broadly for the state itself?
So I'll tell you, we've come out with a Sankalp Patra, and it's a definite vision for development. It's entirely on development-oriented politics. It's only and only stressing on development. So the Sankalp Patra is clear on that very aspect. And it's a lot of schemes put together. In fact, we'll implement the Ayushman Bharat. We'll implement the Kisan Samman Nidhi in Bengal. It's a lot of changes which have to be brought about here. In fact, we'll do KG to PG, free education for the girl child. The payments and outgoes will be made to widows, to the elderly citizens and all. So it's, in fact, the document is there. It's a beautifully, created document, which a lot of thought has gone into it, into the Sankalp Patra. And in fact, the economic deprivation which Bengal has witnessed, it needs to come out of it. So, all of this has to be given, has been given a lot of, so the first focus has been economic development of Bengal. In fact, I've also created, local manifesto for Baliganj. In fact, Baliganj, although in the heart of the city, is a very interesting constituency. You've got people, Bengali speaking people, you've got Hindi speaking people, you've got Bhojpuri speaking people, you've got Marwari, Gujaratis, you've got Odias, you've got Sikhs, you've got, Urdu speaking people, you've got Bengali speaking Muslim people. So, it's a mixed bag. And then, there are various, from various corners, I found a lot of underdevelopment. In fact, although you have a lot of high rises which are there, at the same point of time, you will find a lot of slums where, in fact, I went there even during the, when the sun was shining bright, these slums were, quite, they didn't even receive proper sunlight. So that's the state and the way in which people live here. So women were saying, din mein 2 baar meethi pani nahi milta hai. So they are not even getting piped water supplies. The drainage system is in a very bad shape. There's a lot of, this cut money system. So, for every work which you do, they take some money out. And then you've got the syndicate thing. So therefore, if you, for example, do some construction work, random party guy will come and say, I'll supply you sand, I'll supply you stone chips, I'll supply you cement, which will be basically bad quality. So, this has led to an increase in the cost of housing and all of it. And there's a lot of criminal activities which have been going on. So, this is the common thread which runs across, saying that, this criminal activity should come to an end. So, that's how things are. And in fact, my first priority for Baliganj would be improvement in the law and order situation, and also the safety and security of women. That's a very, very important factor, which in Bengal, many women really face. So that's one. And then we also have, this cut money syndicate drug system should come to an end. And people should be, people have very basic needs like water. 21st century world, capital of Bengal, you have people, asking for piped water. So, this is a very sad state of affairs here. And there's a lot of underdevelopment, and people have been deprived. So these are issues and factors in which, which we are really considering. And as far as Baliganj is concerned, I'm really focused on all of them.
Right. Thank you, Loknath ji, for talking to Bharat Varta. This was a very detailed conversation about your journey in politics and your vision for the state and your constituency. We hope to talk to you soon again after the elections when you have more time. Thank you for appearing.
Yes. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Bharat Varta podcast. If you want to see more content like this, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We started Bharat Varta to facilitate long-form discussions on politics, policy, and culture. We don't necessarily endorse anything that was said in this episode. If you wish to offer us feedback, do reach out to us on social media. We are at Bharat Varta on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You could also get in touch with us on our website, www.bharatvarta.in. The links are in the description below. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and Jai Hind.